Tonight, a Showbiz Tonight special event. Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen.
Is that hair, Dave?
Showbiz Tonight uncovers the disturbing clues behind Sheen's stunning meltdown, going back some 20 years ago.
I want to play homosexuals and lovers and gamblers and thieves.
Tonight, we're daring to ask, is the Charlie Sheen of today
an odyssey of epic proportions, epic proportions,
the same guy in these interviews from the 80s and 90s?
I've got to thank Brown Dave for augmenting my beard, weepy wipes, and always having the eyes of 1,000 universes of pain.
The interviews that were so bizarre,
Excuse me, boiled egg.
so warped,
Did I already talk about this?
they've never been seen until now. A Showbiz Tonight special event, Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen.
We all rolling? Speed? Action?
Welcome to the Showbiz Tonight special event. Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen. Tonight, we're revealing the disturbing clues behind Sheen's stunning meltdown, which actually go back a long time. Charlie's story today is one of failed marriages, abuse charges, addictions, porn stars, and a nasty battle over the hit show he got fired from, 2.5 Men. But Charlie Sheen's life began with hope and aspirations. In the beginning, Charlie's dreams were simple. He wanted to be a star. He was determined to be a Hollywood legend. Actually, in spite of having so many demons, overall, Sheen has had a lot of career success. But in this Showbiz Tonight Real Star Story, you will see that when Charlie first began his movie career, there were telltale signs that the troubled man we see today was lurking in the eyes of a young Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen was a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Just a few days after his 29th birthday in 1994, Charlie Sheen was celebrating a high in his career, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
On the 3rd day of September, 29 years ago, I was brought into this world by my mother and father as Carlos Irwin Estevez.
On that breezy Hollywood day in September, it was all about Charlie and his family, Hollywood royalty. With Charlie that day, his brothers, Emilio Estevez and Ramon, his mom Janet and sister Renee, his young daughter Cassandra, who he had when he was 19 with his high school sweetheart, and his bigger-than-life Hollywood legend father, Martin Sheen, who, on that day, was proud of his son.
We just want you to know how much we love you.
But he had already been in and out of rehab once, battling addiction to drugs and alcohol, and those demons we've come to know so well.
I've got to thank Brown Dave for augmenting my beard, weepy wipes, and always having the eyes of 1,000 universes of pain standing close by.
In the late 1980s and early 90s, Sheen was a heartthrob. He had his father's good looks and a bad boy image.
People who are in their 20s don't know Charlie Sheen as a serious actor, but Charlie Sheen in Platoon was part of the Best Picture that year.
Charlie Sheen first made his name in Hollywood in 1986 with that lead role in Oliver Stone's Oscar-winning film Platoon.
Come on, boy, get your dick skin on that thing. Dig. You can get all day. Dig, dig.
It was the beginning of his career and his very public battle with addictions.
That's what this place feels like. Hell.
Platoon was shot in the Philippines, an important place for Charlie, who lived there when he was 10 while his father Martin filmed his own career-defining movie, Apocalypse Now.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Charlie says his father didn't want to split up the family. Where Martin went, so went the family. Charlie's life was centered around acting and Hollywood. He made his first screen appearance in 1974 in his father's Showtime movie, The Execution of Private Slovik. And he made high 8 movies with his school friends and later fellow stars, Sean and Chris Penn and Rob and Chad Lowe. But he would say that his most impressionable moments as a kid were on the road with his father and his family.
Growing up on location, various parts, seeing most of the world by age 12 was quite fascinating.
Living in the Philippines during the filming of Apocalypse Now was a life-changing experience for Charlie, who revealed it was there that he was first introduced to his lifelong love of guns and drugs.
He allegedly got his first joint from Lawrence Fishburne, on the set of Apocalypse Now.
Sheen says that time in the Philippines set off years of teenage angst and aggression that included getting arrested for credit card fraud and possession of marijuana when he was 16.
I had aspirations of wanting to play baseball professionally, and that didn't come together when I didn't graduate high school.
Charlie's bad boy ways and his red-hot temper prevented him from passing his final exams during his senior year of high school. But Charlie says that failure would wind up leading him to acting.
Acting was the only other thing I knew how to do at the time, and so I had to kind of shelve my baseball dreams,
And act he did. In 1984, he made his first big movie, Red Dawn.
This thing's got an arrow. It's pointing. It's Where? Right here.
In 1985 and 86, Sheen returned to the Philippines for the first time since his youth to film Platoon. And once again, the country proved to be a powerful and dangerous player for Charlie.
That's the way the whole thing works. People like Elias get wasted. People like Barnes just go on making up the rules any way they want.
Platoon was a huge hit, and Charlie admits the fame went straight to his head.
I was in love with the idea of being a movie star, and I, although I hate that labeling, I spent a lot of time out with my brother Emilio and Rob Lowe and Judd Nelson and Tom Cruise when the whole Brat Pack thing got going, which I was never a member of.
Charlie was finally feeling like an equal to his already successful older brother, Emilio Estevez.
Charlie Sheen, the son of Martin Sheen, brother of Emilio Estevez.
But Charlie's newfound fame came at a price.
When it finally hit, and I couldn't go anywhere all of a sudden, it was like suddenly I walk into a room and I felt like I wore my second head that day, or my fly was open or something was nuts, and there was no gradual lead-in to this sudden onslaught of, this is your life, welcome to it. It's nice to be appreciated, respected in the business, but at the same time, there's an added pressure of, like I said, what's next?
What came next was partying. Outrageous, out-of-control partying.
I have to have a schedule. I have to have a place to go and some place to focus the energy, or I get kind of distracted by the elements of life.
In a 1987 People magazine interview, Charlie Sheen talked openly about his wild ways and his womanizing, admitting to drinking until dawn on the day Platoon was nominated for an Oscar. He even stopped the interview with people to try to pick up a model. Charlie's career kept forging full steam ahead. For Charlie, no role was too dark or too gritty.
I want to play homosexuals and lovers and gamblers and thieves.
In 1987, a 24-year-old Sheen gave a very telling interview that revealed his worst-case scenario if movie roles ever dried up for him.
I'll just jump on TV and play the same character for 5 years, which is what I want to avoid.
Howard, I thought you were a gentleman.
But it wasn't time for sitcoms yet. In 1987, he had another box office success, starring with his father in another Oliver Stone film, Wall Street.
Well, congratulations, Dad. You just did a great job of embarrassing me in there, not to mention yourself.
Sheen admits he was drinking heavily during filming, telling this to Movie Line magazine in 1990. I showed up on the set one day for a big scene with Michael Douglas. I was so hungover that during rehearsal, I couldn't take my shades off. Just sipped water to keep from vomiting on Michael. Sheen's troubled ways didn't go unnoticed by director Oliver Stone.
No, not Charlie anymore. I mean, obviously, he's a nice guy, he always was, but he's had his share of demons, He, even then, as a young boy.
Wall Street was a box office hit for Charlie Sheen. He wanted to star in Stone's next big film, Born on the 4th of July.
I volunteered, Tommy! You don't know what you're talking about! Where were you? Were you there? Were you there? You can just love it or leave it, Tommy!
He claims Stone offered him the role, but then gave it to Tom Cruise.
Timmy, man? Timmy?
It was a major disappointment for Sheen, who told Playboy in 2001 he couldn't even call me and say, "I've changed my mind. I've made a mistake. I'm going with Tom." That I'd respect. Nothing is worse than getting a job and then it goes to some schmuck who pisses all over it. But Stone says Charlie had changed in the year since his success in Platoon.
Charlie moved into another lifestyle and another way of life.
Instead of moving on to more challenging, dramatic movie roles, Charlie switched gears. But soon, the laughter stopped. Coming up on Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen, the Addict, the first of many of Charlie's ugly battles with addiction.
I got too much life to live to be on a path of slow suicide.
Also, Showbiz Tonight reveals the mysterious woman who went to rehab with Charlie that very first time.
I believe that I was the first adult film star that he ever dated. I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to be there for him.
You are watching a Showbiz Tonight special event. Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen. Welcome back to this Showbiz Tonight special event. Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen. There were hints of the erratic, troubled Charlie Sheen that we've come to know today as far back as 1986. That's when Sheen hit superstardom with his role in Oliver Stone's Oscar-winning movie Platoon. But with Sheen's dizzying success came shocking addiction. Charlie got in way over his head partying, and with the partying came big-time trouble with the law.
Airline are going right down the tubes just like Brandon. And
Dramatic roles like Wall Street and Platoon put Sheen on the map in the late 80s.
I'll walk you out.
But by the early 90s, the dramatic roles started drying up, and so he turned to comedy.
I had no intentions of pursuing any sort of comedic career. It just kind of worked out that way.
In 1989, the man who once dreamed of playing professional baseball would star in Major League as Ricky Vaughn. Followed by other comedies, including Men at Work and Hot Shots. Charlie was making a buck as a funny man, and in his honest way, he made no bones about it.
I can do art movies for the rest of my life, but I don't want to spend that much time and that much energy making a movie that nobody's going to see.
But what nobody could see was that Charlie's life was imploding. Charlie was losing his battle to addiction.
Things were a little out of hand, and it was time to look in the mirror and change what was happening.
Charlie's partying was so out of control, his family staged an intervention in 1990. Former porn star Ginger Lynn Allen was dating Charlie at the time and reveals to Showbiz Tonight just what happened.
When we first met, it was in February of 1990, and probably 6 or 8 months into our relationship, his parents and friends and family, they did an intervention.
Charlie told CNN about it in a 1991 interview.
I checked in to a hospital and just said, I wasn't too proud that I couldn't ask for help.
I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to be there for him. So I decided to get sober with Charlie, and together we stayed sober for over a year.
In the year that Charlie was sober, he had a philosophical take on his addiction.
I got too much work to do. I got too much life to live to be on a path of slow suicide, which it is,
It would be the beginning of a troubling pattern for Sheen. Get clean, fall off the wagon, repeat. The early 90s would be a blur for Sheen. The comedies continued for Charlie. In 1993, he starred in Three Musketeers.
Yeah, this is a little gift for Planet Hollywood from the Three Musketeers.
Good.
And that same year, the sequel, Hot Shots Part 2. But even as Charlie was out promoting Hot Shots Part 2, clearly his hard living and fast life was taking a toll on him.
Hold on, let me just sweating up a little bit. Let me get a tissue or a...
Watch what happened during this interview for the movie.
Well, it's a better story, first of all. Did I already say that?
I don't think
Last
so.
interview.
You can.
Last interview. But I don't know. What was there was a question originally.
You were doing pretty
I'm
well.
sorry.
Yeah,
I just,
I'm not picky about questions.
In March of 1994, Sheen's sequel, Major League 2, flatlined at the box office.
What was that last pitch you threw me?
You call it the Eliminator.
But I didn't feel as involved in the comedic elements of the film, you know. But I never really am in these comedies. So where am I going with this? I don't know.
And this chilling behind-the-scenes CNN footage of Sheen in 1994 as he attempted to promote Major League 2 and The Chase gives insight into his state of mind at that time.
Excuse me, boiled egg. Is that here, Dave? Did I already talk about this?
No.
No, getting confused now.
No.
So, this is CNN? Everybody sees this?
Yes, after this, I don't know.
But his battle with addiction and a series of mediocre movies didn't seem to impact his popularity. Sheen was still a beloved movie star and a constant source of fascination for his fans. In 1995, Charlie's life began to unravel again, this time because of prostitutes.
Do you recall the substance of your telephone conversation with Miss Weiss?
Yes, I do.
In July of 1995, Sheen admitted to spending over $50,000 on prostitutes through the infamous Madam Heidi Fleiss.
The acquisition, meeting of a young lady.
For what purpose?
For sexual services.
Sheen's confessions were startling. He admitted to hiring prostitutes through Fleiss at least 27 times. And just 1 month later, he surprised everyone by announcing that he was getting married on his 30th birthday to model Donna Peel.
I only knew her for about 6 weeks before I proposed. You know?
He was married to Peel for 5 months when he filed for a divorce. He told Us Weekly magazine there was a voice, not like drug-induced voices, but there was a voice that kept telling me, this will not work. And Charlie Sheen's issues with women were about to get much, much worse. Coming up next on Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, the disturbing details around Charlie's first bout with the law for domestic violence. And Charlie's dad, Martin Sheen. Showbiz Tonight reveals Martin's emotional and public battle to save his son's life.
My son was admitted here yesterday as a result of a drug overdose. Do anything you can to get between drugs and your kids.
You're watching a Showbiz Tonight special event. Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen. Welcome back to this Showbiz Tonight special event. Showbiz Tonight presents Real Star Stories, Charlie Sheen. In 1995, Charlie Sheen didn't make a single movie. His life became a whirlwind of drugs, prostitutes, and legal problems. Charlie's carefully balanced house of cards finally came crashing down. In 1996, Charlie Sheen was still making movies, including the extraterrestrial flop, The Arrival.
Why did they leave?
They didn't.
How do you know?
Because we aren't dead yet.
But in May of 1996, Charlie announced that he had found God.
Yeah, I had an experience that was a spiritual awakening and secured a relationship with God.
He claimed that the power of Jesus had helped him find strength after a year of partying, prostitutes, and scrutiny. But later that year, in December of 1996, a bombshell allegation. Girlfriend and porn star Brittany Ashland claimed that Charlie had beaten her brutally. Gloria Allred represented Ashland.
A split lip, which required 7 stitches, injury to her face, to her neck, and to her leg, and she was unconscious as a result.
Sheen would be charged with battery, and in 1997, he pleaded no contest. He was given a suspended 1-year prison sentence and was put on probation for 2 years. Sheen was still battling addiction to drugs and alcohol, and the next year, in 1998, all hell broke loose.
And the very first thing I want to assure you of is that my son, Charlie Sheen, is very much alive.
Charlie had gone on a major bender and overdosed. He later told Playboy magazine he couldn't stop taking drugs. So he decided, if I can't stop, I'm going to take this thing as far as I can. Let's get on a horse and drive this circus completely out of town.
My son was admitted here yesterday as a result of a drug overdose.
A tired and emotional Martin Sheen held a press conference the morning after Charlie's overdose.
Do anything you can to get between drugs and your kids.
In reality, he was alerting the court that Charlie had violated probation from his domestic violence charge the previous year. Martin asked the court to arrest his son, and Charlie was sentenced to 5 months court-ordered rehab. By the end of 1998, Charlie came out of rehab clean and optimistic about the future.
Today was a good day. I'm very grateful today.
It was a good day, and Charlie's newfound sobriety would lead to many more good days, including newfound love.
How did you propose?
Very traditionally.
And Charlie's major career reinvention into a sitcom superstar.
Everybody do a toast to 2.5 Men. Cheers.
And how Charlie lived his life through the 90s would offer clues to the Charlie we see today. That's it for the Showbiz Tonight special event, Real Star Stories. I'm A.J. Hammer.